You don't like the way we pay our fighters? Too fucking bad. Go start another MMA organization and you go fucking figure out how to do it. And you can pay them $10 million a fight, $30 million a fight, whatever you want to do. We run a business. We've been very good at it. Not only do we run the business, we continue to grow the sport and take everybody along with us. You're either fucking good enough to be here or you're not. This is the big leagues. It's like the NFL. You can either last here or you can't last here. But people get paid.
Paddy Pimblett and the entire middleweight division have just dropped a massive bombshell message to Dana White after devastating salary cuts. And Dana's response on Twitter? Well, you're not going to believe this. Let's start with the bombshell that has the MMA world on fire. Multiple UFC fighters, including rising star Paddy Pimblett, have come forward with a stunning admission. I'm getting less now for the UFC than I did for some of my cage fights. I took a pay cut for this fight.
I'm getting less now for the UFC than I did for some of my cage warriors fights. I've took a pay cut.
Let that sink in. Fighters are taking pay cuts to compete in what's supposed to be the premier organization in mixed martial arts. This isn't some random complaint. This is a pattern that's been exposed through years of legal battles and internal documents. Here's where it gets really disturbing. According to a 2013 internal study that the UFC commissioned themselves, costing them between $45,000 and $50,000, UFC fighters receive just 18.6% of total revenue.
How would you like it if you flew to the other side of the world to do your job and then your company charged you a bunch of fees and the government took half your money? Behind me is a breakdown of John McDessie's pay from the UFC after he fought in Australia. Up here is where he was charged by the UFC for his medicals and for his airfare. And then down here over my shoulder is where the Australian government took 45% of his earnings because he's a foreign athlete. This is a tough way to make a living, as John McDessie just showed us.
The UFC's 18.6%? It's not just lower. It's in a completely different stratosphere. And not in a good way. Now let me break down the brutal reality that entry-level UFC fighters face. And trust me, this math will shock you. A new UFC fighter gets paid $12,000 just to show up. Another $12,000 if they win.
First check of UFC, how much you make?
I think my first pro fight, I made like 800, which is a lot for a first pro fight. You get into the UFC on the Contender Series, 5,000 to show, 5,000 to win. Once you get signed to UFC, pretty much everyone starts out of the same contract, 10 and 10. And a lot of people's contract goes up by like 2,000 each fight. So my first fight, I think I made 20,000, 20 and 20 in my second fight. So I made 40,000, plus I got a $50,000 fight in the night bonus. That was when I broke my foot. Broke my foot in the third round. Was hopping on one foot for 3 minutes. It ended up being like 97,500. Made 6 figures-ish.
So, on paper, $24,000 for winning sounds decent, right? Wrong. Here's what actually happens. Starting amount, $24,000 minus manager fees, 10 to 20%. Minus 2,400 to 4,800 coaches and training team, 10 to 15%. Minus 2,400 to 3,600 federal and state taxes, 25 to 30%. Minus 6,000 to 7,200 training camp costs. Minus 20,000 to 50,000 travel expenses. Medical costs not covered by UFC basic living expenses during training.
Well, right now in particular, there's probably less money because the fighters have to, there's no gate.
There's no live gate.
Yeah, there's no live gate. And that's an extreme amount of money. But there's also fighters that agreed to certain deals.
Mm-hmm.
They agreed to like an 8-fight deal at X amount per fight. And then they become more popular, and then they want to renegotiate their deal. Yeah. And the UFC is like, look, we're just trying to stay open.
Yep. So they're like
you can take it or you can leave it, but this is what it is.
Yep. Entry-level fighters sometimes walk away with just $5,000 to $10,000 per fight. And that's if they win. If they lose, they're walking away with roughly half that amount. And here's the kicker. Statistics show that 43% of UFC fighters earn under $45,000 yearly, the median annual salary. Just $51,370. These athletes are putting their lives, their health, their brains on the line for less than what many people make at desk jobs.
Why do you think the UFC gets so much flack for not paying their fighters?
Because I don't tell anybody what they get paid. I don't tell anybody what they get paid, and guess what? Neither do the fighters. There's no gag order in place. These fighters could come out and Say exactly what they make.
But don't just take my word for it. Let's hear from the fighters themselves. Jon Jones, arguably the greatest mixed martial artist of all time, said this: "Most of the guys who are doing the absolute worst are not in a position where they could say publicly, 'I have a second job. I'm borrowing money from my parents.' I know so many fighters that are living in the Jackson MMA gym because they can't afford to have their own apartment, and they're UFC fighters."
Most of the guys who are doing the absolute worst are not in a position that they could say publicly, I have a second job. I'm borrowing money from my parents.
Right.
I know so many fighters that are living in the Jackson's MMA gym because they can't afford to have their own apartment. And they're UFC fighters.
Think about that: UFC fighters, people competing at the highest level of the sport, living in a gym because they can't afford an apartment. Paulo Costa, former middleweight title challenger, withdrew from a main event in 2021, claiming inadequate pay. When Dana White was asked about Costa's complaints, the UFC president called him a lunatic and insisted the claims were the furthest thing from the truth.
And for Paulo, on the broadcast, Joe Rogan said he feels that Paulo hasn't been the same since he lost to Israel, and he maybe have lost a bit of confidence and doesn't fight the way he used to. Do you agree with that assessment, or do you think maybe Paulo's just trying to find different ways to fight?
No, I think that I expected him to come in and turn it into a street fight eventually. Maybe they had a... My thought process in the first 2 rounds, I was like, okay, they have a game plan that he's sticking to. He's chopping that front leg, trying to get him, and then he's going to turn this into an absolute street fight, and the street fight never came. I think that Strickland was way too unorthodox for him and kept that jab in his face and kept pressure on him basically the same way he did Izzy.
Dana's go-to examples: Conor McGregor, who's earned over $108 million, Ronda Rousey, Jon Jones, the superstars who've made tens of millions. But here's the problem with Dana's defense: he's using outliers to justify a broken system. Yes, Conor McGregor made $108 million. You know how many Conor McGregors exist in the UFC? 1. For every fighter earning millions, there are hundreds earning poverty wages, while Dana points to that single success story.
Did you think that 100 million changed Conor?
It's impossible for that money not to affect you and phase you. If you ever notice, there's never been a beef between UFC and Conor McGregor.
Right.
Conor McGregor is brilliant in that way too. He knows what he brought to the table, and he knows his value and his worth. Conor's one of the very unique few that was able to capitalize on his fame, his personality, and everything else outside of the Octagon. And that is one of the things that I will credit Conor for.
It's like a lottery company defending their business model by saying, look, this guy won $100 million, while ignoring the millions of people who lost everything. That's not a fair system. That's exploitation with a handful of success stories sprinkled on top for good PR. But here's what Dana doesn't mention. While individual stars have succeeded, the UFC has exploded in value. Purchased for $2 million in 2001, now valued at over $12 billion, generating $1.3 billion in annual revenue, just secured a $7.7 billion TV deal with Paramount and CBS.
When we bought this company for $2 million, we literally bought an old wooden Octagon. We had the 3 letters, the UFC, and like 12, 15 contracts, right? The old owner had sold everything, all the ancillary stuff away to Lionsgate. So Lionsgate owned everything. The merchandise, the video games, the DVDs, all that stuff. So we flew out to Lionsgate and they sold us the rights back.
Between 2005 and 2016, the UFC's owners extracted $1.45 billion in dividends. That's money taken out of the company while keeping fighter pay at rock bottom. They literally paid themselves billions while telling fighters there wasn't enough money to go around going to be good. No specifics, no percentages, no guarantees, just good. Meanwhile, the organization he runs keeps that revenue share capped at less than 20%.
I'm not doing this again. I'm not going to be at a press conference and say 200, 300. Never again. You can thank everybody on this card for that. Nobody fought any harder. There was no sense of urgency. 7 straight fucking decisions. It was a real big fucking woohoo. Let's get it, boys. Fuck that shit. Never again.
And get this. Performance of the night bonuses have been stuck at $50,000 since 2014. Think about that. The UFC's revenue has more than doubled since 2014, but the bonuses meant to reward exciting fights haven't moved a single dollar. After UFC 304 in July 2024, Dana even said he was done temporarily increasing bonuses, blaming the fighters for not putting on exciting enough performances despite the increased incentive. So the fighters aren't getting paid enough to take risks, but when they don't take risks, Dana punishes them by keeping bonuses low. It's a vicious cycle designed to keep fighters desperate and underpaid.
The fighter pay thing, it doesn't matter to me. If these guys want to let you know what they make, most of these guys want what's called an LOA, where you don't get to see their money. They don't want people to know how much they make. And you can imagine why they don't. People start coming out of the woodwork and looking for money when they think you got it. I think everybody likes the whole, oh, the poor UFC fighters don't make any money.
Now here's where this gets even more serious. The UFC isn't just facing criticism, they're facing lawsuits that have exposed their business practices.
And I'm excited to announce that I'm signing with the PFL.
I am officially a MMA fighter. I signed to the PFL.
So I don't know, whoever is ready for me, I'm here.
In 1 week, he called me like, I have a fight for you. And I started my journey there, and the rest is history.
20-second Joe.
And I saw him working with the backs. Bro, what the f*** is this?
What are you talking about? Same exact Joe. Same exact Joe. What are you talking? And you know it. You're laughing because you know it.
You know,
What are you
I don't
talking about?
f***ing know who's Joe. Who's Joe?
We found out what these are called.
What
Joe.
the fuck are you guys
A
talking?
Joe. That's how we stole your drift. That'll be your joke.
The UFC lightweight division is in chaos. Some of the biggest names are threatening to walk away, and others are already signing with rival organizations. From Ilia Topuria teasing cross-promotion fights, to Justin Gaethje's camp sending a massive ultimatum straight to Dana White himself, things are getting real because just hours ago, Justin Gaethje's manager, Ali Abdelaziz, dropped a bombshell message that's shaking the entire UFC. He's demanding a title shot against Ilia Topuria, or Gaethje is done. No more fights, no more wars. He's ready to retire and walk away from the UFC for good. And according to sources close to the situation, he's absolutely serious. And it gets even crazier. Dana White has already fired back on Twitter with a response that's adding fuel to this explosive situation.
We literally today, matchmaking was today, and we started working on the first Paramount card today.
I'm not expecting you to say anything, but do you think there's a chance Ilia Topuria could end up on that card? Big star.
It's a possibility.
This isn't just another fighter complaining about matchmaking. This is one of the UFC's most exciting warriors, a former champion, threatening to walk away forever if he doesn't get what he's earned. And caught right in the middle of this, Paddy Pimblett, the rising star who might be jumping the line. This is huge. Ali Abdelaziz, one of the most powerful managers in all of MMA, just went on Submission Radio and delivered a message that nobody expected. And he didn't hold back. I am telling you this, Justin Gaethje never breaks his word. If he gets jumped by Paddy, he will retire and he will never fight again in the UFC. I truly believe that.
But I'm telling you this, Justin Gaethje never break his word. If he get jumped by Paddy, he will retire. And he will never fight again in the UFC. I truly believe that.
This isn't just talk. This isn't a negotiating tactic. According to those close to the situation, Gaethje is dead serious about walking away from the sport if he doesn't get his shot at newly crowned lightweight champion Ilia Topuria. But here's what makes this even more intense. Gaethje isn't just upset about being overlooked. He's specifically warning the UFC not to give Paddy Pimblett the title shot instead of him. And that's where things get really controversial.
When's the next time we're going to see Justin Gaethje fight?
My next fight, I am planning on fighting whenever Ilia Topuria is fighting. I was hoping they would let me fight him in January, but I can't really see that happening now. The biggest question is, when is Ilia fighting again? I don't know the answer to that, and I don't know that anybody except him and his team know the answer to that. Best case scenario now is they just put us on the White House card. I cannot imagine why they would not put that fight on that card. You know, he's a champ. He's very popular. I'm an American, just as deserving as anybody in the lightweight division. I've never not shown up for a fight, never let the UFC down, never failed them, and I've always been there for them. So I expect to get that fight and represent the United States of America on the White House lawn.
Hell yeah.
Justin Gaethje has been one of the UFC's most reliable warriors. He's fought killers. He's saved cards on short notice. He's delivered some of the most violent, exciting fights in UFC history. The man is a former interim lightweight champion who's challenged for the undisputed title twice. losing to legends Khabib Nurmagomedov and Charles Oliveira. His manager put it bluntly, Justin Gaethje keeps giving the UFC favor after favor after favor. What has Paddy Pimblett done for the UFC to deserve a shot over Justin Gaethje?
Justin Gaethje give the UFC favorite after favorite after favorite. What Paddy Pimblett have done to the UFC to deserve a shot over Justin Gaethje?
And honestly, that's a fair question. Now, if you're wondering why Paddy Pimblett's name is even being mentioned for a title shot, you're not alone. Paddy is a rising star, a charismatic fighter from Liverpool, England, who's built a massive following. He's exciting, he talks a big game, and he's entertaining both inside and outside the cage.
It's so good to be back in Western, and I feel like the UFC will finish to be back in London after what we just walked there.
But here's the problem. When you look at his resume compared to Gaethje's, it's not even close. Pimblett's biggest wins? Tony Ferguson, who was well past his prime, and Michael Chandler, who, as Islam Makhachev pointed out, everybody beat. Those are decent wins, sure, but they're not title shot worthy. Not when you have guys like Justin Gaethje, who's been fighting elite competition his entire UFC career. To Paddy's response, of course, Paddy didn't stay quiet. In a recent interview, he fired back, "I'd absolutely smash his face in. I can see me beating him anywhere the fight goes. People put him on a pedestal now. They think he's this big, amazing thing, when I'll bring him crashing back down to earth in a big way."
Absolutely smash his face in for him. I can see me beating him anywhere the fight goes, to be honest. People have put him on a pedestal now. They think he's this big, amazing thing, when I'll bring him crashing back down to earth in a big way.
That's classic Paddy, full of confidence and trash talk. But confidence doesn't equal credentials, and in a division as stacked as lightweight, credentials should matter. Here's what's really going on. The UFC has been trying to build Paddy Pimblett as a star. He sells tickets in the UK, he's got personality, he's marketable, and the UFC loves marketable fighters.
The little claimed. Look how fat he is. Big fat cunt. Big stupid fat cunt.
But if they fast-track him to a title shot over a legitimate contender like Gaethje, it sends a dangerous message. Entertainment value matters more than merit. And that's exactly what has Gaethje and his team furious. Now, you knew Dana White wasn't going to let this slide without responding. And true to form, the UFC president took to Twitter to address the situation. According to sources close to the UFC, Dana posted, "Everyone wants to threaten retirement these days. Gaethje is a warrior, but he doesn't get to dictate matchmaking. We'll make the fight that makes sense when the time is right."
Listen, if you're thinking about retiring, you know how I feel about that. You should probably retire. We love Justin Gaethje, and Justin Gaethje did step up, and he's been an exciting, fun fighter to have here in the UFC. But to say, hey, listen, unless you give me a title shot, I'm retiring, that's pretty wacky.
That's classic Dana, dismissive, in control, and unwilling to be bullied into a decision. But here's the thing, this isn't just some mid-tier fighter making demands. This is Justin Gaethje, a main event talent who's given everything to the UFC. Dana and the matchmakers want to see how these fights play out before committing to Topuria's first title defense. That's smart matchmaking on paper, but it's leaving Gaethje in limbo. Here's the reality. If Dana White lets Justin Gaethje walk away because they gave Paddy Pimblett an undeserved title shot, the backlash will be massive. Fans will riot. Other fighters will take notice, and it could set a precedent that damages the UFC's credibility. But if Dana gives in to Gaethje's ultimatum, he looks weak. He looks like fighters can strong-arm him into decisions, and that's something Dana has never, ever tolerated. So who blinks first? Let's break down the lightweight title picture right now, because it's an absolute mess. The smart money is on either Gaethje or Sarukian. Both have earned their shots. Paddy, he needs at least 1 or 2 more big wins against top competition before he's ready for a title shot. And what about the champion himself? Ilia Topuria just captured the lightweight title and is planning his first defense. According to recent statements, he's willing to fight on the rumored White House card, which would be absolutely massive. Topuria hasn't publicly stated who he wants to fight, but he's made it clear he wants a worthy challenger. Someone who will test him. Someone who will make the fight meaningful. That sounds a lot more like Gaethje or Tsarukyan than Paddy Pimblett. According to Ali Abdelaziz and UFC sources, we should know the answer by the end of this month. The UFC wants to see how the Makhachev and Tsarukyan fights play out, and then they'll make their decision. But every day that passes, the pressure builds. Gaethje isn't getting any younger. He's taken damage in his wars, and he knows his window for another title shot is closing fast. This situation is a powder keg ready to explode. Justin Gaethje has drawn his line in the sand. Dana White has responded with his typical defiance, and the entire MMA world is watching to see who blinks first.
Hey, John, what do you think about that first match?
That was awesome. It was awesome. It's different. This sport, I think this sport's really going to blow up. We got boxing with spinning elbows and spinning fists, elbows. It's going to be really cool. I'm excited to be here.
Let's go. Jon Jones.
You crazy, boy.
Motherfucking game.
You crazy, boy. That was pretty wild. He's a specimen.
Jon Jones just dropped a massive bombshell on Dana White, and this time, it's not just talk. The greatest fighter of all time just made a power move that has the entire MMA world in absolute chaos. While Dana White keeps saying there's a 1,000,000,000 chance of Jones fighting at the White House, Bones just became co-owner of a rival promotion, declared the Tom Aspinall fight over, and effectively announced that his career is over. But that's not all. He got down on his knees and begged Dana for one more chance, making it clear he wants himself and his friend Gable Steveson added as heavyweights in the UFC. From Dirty Boxing Championship ownership to training the next generation, from shutting down heavyweight contenders to pleading for redemption, Jon Jones is playing 4D chess while Dana White is still trying to figure out the rules. And trust me, by the end of this video, you'll understand why this bombshell might be the biggest power play in combat sports history.
Can't wait to see you compete the White House. Can't wait to see it.
I know. I really hope it happens. Dana, bro, please, bro. Please, I'm training. I feel great. I'm healthy. And I would be so honored to represent our country and do what I do best.
Let's get into it. Here's what you need to know. While Dana White has been publicly saying there's a 1,000,000,000 chance of Jon Jones fighting at the UFC White House card, Jones wasn't sitting around waiting. He was making moves. On Friday, October 25th, 2025, Dirty Boxing Championship dropped a nuclear announcement. Jon Jones is now a co-owner of the promotion. That's right. The UFC's greatest champion of all time just signed on as a business partner with Mike Perry, the bare-knuckle brawler turned combat sports entrepreneur, and the Kawa brothers, Malky and Abe Kawa, who also happened to be Jones's managers. In his statement, Jones said, "I was hooked from the first show. I believe this is going to be a powerhouse of combat sports. I'm proud to sign my name next to it." And Jones isn't just an investor throwing money around. He was front and center at Dirty Boxing 4 in Miami, watching his close friend and training partner Gable Steveson score a devastating 13-second knockout. Jones was there like a proud mentor, scouting talent, building relationships, and sending a very clear message to Dana White. I don't need you anymore. But don't think Jon Jones has completely given up on the UFC. In fact, at that very same Dirty Boxing event, cameras caught Jones delivering one of the most emotional messages we've seen from him in years.
Cannabis-infused elevated seltzers, Gable Steveson, Billy Swanson were set to go in our main event at PBX 4.
This is the fight we all came here to see tonight. Here we go.
Oh, Stevenson!
Stevenson, he had those hands. He's been working on those hands, and he looked tremendous just now. Wow. Amazing knock.
When asked about the possibility of fighting at the White House card, Jones looked directly into the camera and said, "I really hope it happens. Dana, please, bro. Please. I'm training. I feel great. I'm healthy. I'd be so honored to represent our country and do what I do best. Did you hear that? Dana, please, bro."
Can't wait to see you compete the White House. Can't wait to see it.
I know. I really hope it happens. Dana, bro, please, bro. Please. I'm training. I feel great. I'm healthy. And I'd be so honored to represent our country and do what I do best.
This is Jon Jones, the man who has been called the greatest fighter of all time, the pound-for-pound king, the most dominant champion in UFC history. And he's literally begging Dana White for a chance to compete at the most prestigious event in MMA history. But here's the twist. Dana White has made his position crystal clear. During a UFC 319 press conference in August, White said, "I already said that I don't trust him, and you're asking me what could he do for me to trust him in the next 3 months? You don't trust him?"
So I already said that I don't trust him, and you're asking me what could he do for me to trust him in the next 3 months. You don't trust him.
And then he dropped this bomb. "If I had to make odds, it's 1,000,000,000 to 1 that I put Jon Jones on the White House card."
I would not bet on, if I had to make odds, it's 1,000,000,000 to 1 that I put Jon Jones on the White House.
Let that sink in. That's not maybe. That's not we'll see. That's Dana White saying there's a better chance of you winning the lottery 3 times in a row than Jon Jones headlining the biggest UFC event ever. Now, here's where things get really spicy, because while Jon Jones is pleading with Dana for a White House slot, he's also making it very clear that he's done with Tom Aspinall. Multiple sources and insiders close to Jones have reported that he considers the Aspinall chapter closed, over, done, not happening.
Donald Trump mentioned that he wanted to have a fight at the White House Garden, and that just seems like such a huge opportunity. Just to be able to entertain the country and the world at this level at the White House, it just means the world to me. So I'm back.
And guess what? He was right. Jones retired in June 2025 without ever unifying the heavyweight titles. Aspinall became the undisputed champion by default. And now, Jones is saying that fighting no longer interests him.
Heavyweight division, take the title away from him.
Jon Jones called us last night and retired. Jon Jones is officially retired. Tom Aspinall is the heavyweight champion of the UFC.
But why? Is it fear? Is it a strategy? Or is it something deeper? Here's the truth. Tom Aspinall holds the highest finishing rate in UFC heavyweight history. 15 fights, 15 finishes. Most of them don't even make it past round 1. He's 31 years old. In his absolute prime, with knockout power and takedown defense that would give even prime Jon Jones problems. Jones knows this. Dana knows this. The entire MMA world knows this. So when Jones says Aspinall is over, what he's really saying is, I'm not interested in fighting someone who could permanently damage my legacy. And you know what? That's smart. Jones is 38 years old. He's already the GOAT. Why risk it all against a freight train like Aspinall when he can make more money, keep more control, and fight whoever he wants outside the UFC? Let's talk about Gable Steveson for a second, because this is a huge piece of the puzzle. Gable Steveson is an Olympic gold medalist wrestler, a former WWE star, and now an MMA fighter making his dirty boxing debut. And guess who's in his corner? Jon Jones. At Dirty Boxing 4, Steveson scored a brutal 13-second knockout, and afterwards, he gave a shout-out to UFC matchmaker Mick Maynard, who was in attendance. I think a special guest was here to watch me, but I'm just not sure where he is. His name is Mick Maynard, and he's right there. Mick, you've seen a little bit. I would love to show a lot more. Hopefully, you believe in me, and I appreciate you.
Any ideas what is next for Gable?
I think a special guest was here to come watch me, but I'm just not sure where he is. His name is Mick Maynard with UFC, and he's right there. So, Mick, I mean, you've seen a little bit. I would love to show a lot more. And, man, hopefully you believe in me, and I appreciate you.
So here's what's happening. Jon Jones is building an entire ecosystem around himself. He's co-owner of Dirty Boxing. He's mentoring the next generation of fighters like Gable Steveson. He's showcasing their talent to UFC matchmakers. And he's doing it all while simultaneously negotiating with Dana White for a comeback. This is a power move, unlike anything we've seen in MMA. Jones isn't just a fighter anymore. He's a promoter, a mentor, a businessman, and a brand unto himself.
Yep. We got the shit.
Little gone in black. Tom
Octagon. Moving into Aspinall. Oh, nice.
Connect. Aspinall goes hot.
And Cyril Gane was ranked higher than Tom.
Quick jab from Gane.
I don't love the spinning.
Leaky here early.
Is he prepared? The wolf.
Look like an eye poke there as Gane. Help out.
Israel Adesanya and MMA pros drop a massive bombshell on Tom Aspinall ahead, 321 of Cyril Gane's scary looks. They said we're wearing about Tom. Some of the biggest names in the UFC, including former champion Israel Adesanya, are sending you a serious message. They believe Cyril Gane has what it takes to shock the world at UFC 321. This isn't just talk. These fighters are seeing something that could spell trouble for the interim heavyweight champion. Let's break down exactly what they're saying.
Anthony? No, I'm just disappointed. I'm disappointed. I talked all day yesterday. Like, I just want to see Tom have to overcome some adversity. I want to see what he does when when his first plan of action doesn't work. What's he checked down to? Is he gonna wrestle? Can he compete with Cyril Gane on his feet for 25 minutes? And I don't get any of those answers, and just like everybody at home, I'm disappointed.
Being poked in the eye is illegal, Brendan, but to fight with one eye is very common. The opponent's trying to hit your eye. He's trying to bust up and make your nose bleed. So that part of it does have question for guys like Anthony and I. We're trying to be polite. We're trying to show grace. But in all fairness, if you're the heavyweight champion of the world, you got to fight with one eye at times.
October 25th, 2025, Etihad Arena, Abu Dhabi. 13,220 fans packed in. Tom Aspinall versus Cyril Gane for the undisputed UFC Heavyweight Championship. This was Tom's moment, his first defense as the full champion after Jon Jones retired.
I'm seeing it all online. Tom quit, Tom quit, Tom quit. It got dicey out there for him and he quit. That's what the people are saying. Complete hogwash, complete nonsense. If you just watch it, you will see that those were two nasty, deep eye pokes. You could say that he lost that first round. I think he lost that first round. I think we all agree that he lost that first round.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you could. I mean, that is fair game. But to suggest that he quit, that he wanted a way out, that he looked for a way out because the going got tough is just something that I'm not going to subscribe to. You know Jon Jones is going to weigh in. This is the guy. This is the guy. For the record, Jon Jones was offered for the millionth time $30 million to fight this man, and he didn't. You can't claim after the fact, this is the guy, but you know he's going to spike the football. And there's a cruel irony involved in the fact that Tom doesn't fight Jon Jones, but still gets eye poked. But this is tough for him. This is the first time in his career where he's not going to be beloved by people because people are going to accuse him of being a quitter because they're going to say that the going got tough and he asked for a way out. I think that's absolute hogwash. He got poked in both eyes.
The fight starts, and honestly, it was fire. Both guys came to throw down. Gane was landing that jab, making Tom's nose bleed. Tom was pressing forward with power. Gane stuffed Tom's takedown attempt like it was nothing. We were watching a legitimate competitive fight between the two best heavyweights in the world. And then, disaster. 4 minutes and 35 seconds into round one, Cyril Gane's fingers go straight into Tom Aspinall's eyes. And I'm not talking about a little poke. This was knuckle deep into both eyeballs. A double eye poke that left Tom unable to see.
Little Gane in black. Tom
Cyril Gane. Moving into Aspinall. Oh, nice.
Connect. Aspinall goes hot.
And Cyril Gane was ranked higher than Tom.
Quick jab from Gane.
I don't love the spinning.
Leaky here early.
Is he prepared? The wolf.
Look like an eye poke there as Gane. Help out.
The fight gets called off. No contest. Tom's still the champion technically, but nobody's happy. The crowd boos. Tom's devastated. Gane's emotional and apologizing. Dana White calls it a total pain in the ass. And that's when the MMA world absolutely exploded with reactions.
Total pain in the ass, but yes.
Now, you knew Jon Jones wasn't going to stay quiet about this. The man who's been accused of ducking Tom Aspinall for over a year, the guy who retired specifically to avoid this fight,